All right. Welcome, Crusaders, Saccharins, Thieves, and Vengeance Seekers, to this, the 319th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 28th of August, 2019, and featuring The Crusade. Written by David Whitaker and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara, William Russell as Ian, and Maureen O'Brien as Vicky. I'm your host this evening, Randy Ronson McCulloch, and with me is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
Today I began my quest to save a holy relic from Nazis.
And on the panel is Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Greetings and salutations, good fellows.
And returning to us after, 2-3 weeks of absence, is Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black.
Yep. Hello.
Thomas Fireheart, of course, is still dodging us because he doesn't like the telesnaps.
Even though this was half not telesnaps. Thank goodness.
Oh, yeah, well, it doesn't matter. If he has to watch half an hour of something that's just pictures and audio.
I was going to say, does that imply that there are people that wake up in the morning like, I wish I could find some telesnaps today?
I'm sure there, if you dig deep enough, there are people on like Reddit.
Gonna force that boy to sit down and watch every Golden Book version of He-Man.
Jesus.
That's literally animated telesnaps. I was raised on those. We were too cheap to actually get the actual He-Man tapes.
No. I had the audio and picture book for Star Wars.
I had the cassette tape and picture book for a Ghostbusters story.
Never had that one.
Mm-hmm.
But I had Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi, all on cassette tape with a picture book.
It was a cool little short story. It was basically how the Ghostbusters get called in for a haunted mist monster appearing at a local haunted house. You find out their proton packs are ineffective and can't even touch the ghosts, only to later find out that it's actually all an illusion and it's a movie guy that's been testing out his animated mist laser show kind of thing.
So
well, thanks for giving the twist away.
So was this the actual like Bill Murray cast, or was this the real Ghostbusters?
I want to say it might have been the animated voice cast in this one. I can't remember for sure.
Probably the animated cast.
I remember it was decently voice acted, and I also remember that I really liked the art in the book. Like it was like some pretty decently detailed art. Especially the mist monsters, which just took multiple different shapes and they were all freaky looking.
It sounds like
an untapped market.
It sounds like something the animated cast would do. I mean, Maurice LaMarche would do that for a sandwich.
Probably. They a good half of them would do it just because it sounds like fun. And it's this extra side story they can do when they're not actually doing the main show.
The thing is, I remember the Star Wars tapes, and you got to the end, it's like, please turn the cassette to side B.
Yeah, that's what that book did too, I think. Or at least I had something like it.
Yeah. Because it was right the scene where the Millennium Falcon's going into the Death Star for the Star Wars one, and it has the tense music, and then it fades out. Please turn the cassette to side B. And you're like, oh, almost wish I'd had the 8-track. Anybody here remember 8-tracks? Anybody?
My father collects them.
I had one for one of the Charlie Brown things, because I remember I just had it play the frickin' Red Baron song like 80 gazillion times. When I was 6. So this was like 1981, 1982, and 8-tracks had just gone out of style.
I had a friend in high school in like 2002 who got a car from a family member that had an 8-track player.
Jesus, how old was that car?
I don't think we ever asked.
Because, yeah, that's almost getting, qualifying for a classic by 2002. I don't remember us having a family car with an 8-track in it. They all had cassettes. My father's old van might have. But I don't remember that well. Except I fell out the back once.
Yeah.
Whoops.
That's about it. Anyway,
Can you tell we're reaching for time?
I was just about to make that transition. On tonight's show, we've got birthdays, a couple, news, a little bit, geek talk, some. I take it none of us have watched previous episodes yet.
No,
At
I
least
watched
those-
half of last week's episode on time, and then I didn't have time to watch more of it today.
Okay. I don't have any rant this week.
Has there been any good news while I was gone?
Not really. The biggest thing that happened was that annoying rumor that's been traveling around YouTube.
And we squashed it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just some filming notes, and that's about it.
Also,
Also,
Doctor Who's filming.
also didn't help that
Hesitant.
Big Finish changed their website design.
Oh yeah, that's
And-
right. That's been annoying.
News didn't update for like 3 weeks.
I
I
blame
thought they
Brexit.
would have gotten on that faster.
Yeah, it took a while. I don't know what happened, but yeah, it took a while. So anyway, moving on to birthdays. We've got 2 birthdays, both on the same day. And that was Monday, the 26th of August. The first one is Phil Collinson. He was a producer from 2005 to 2008, so basically during Russell. He dropped out the last year, and Julie Gardner took his place. He turned 49. Then we've got Annette Badland, who played blonde Falfach Pasmir de Slevine. She turned 69. And she counts because she was in 2 episodes that season. And that's it for birthdays, so happy birthday to Phil and Annette.
Yes, many happy returns.
Yep.
So then we move on to some Series 12 news.
Yes, more news from Nash Point last week. Apparently, the filming there continued all week. Seen on the location was a brown-robed wizard-like figure and several silver-armored figured... That's right, the Cybermen are back with a more spiky, medieval-y look.
Now, people are theorizing that's because they're trying to fit in with the time frame that they're using for these episodes, which as far as we're aware are the 2 final episodes next season. But yeah, they first thought they might have been knights, but yeah, somebody got a closer pick, and it was their Cybermen doing the march in formation.
Yep, Cybermen doing the cyber thing.
I'm trying to look
cyber
at the
car.
pictures they have here, and everything is literally going, look at this post on Instagram.
Can't see Instagram.
It's not even giving me a direct link to it.
It was working earlier.
Let me click on this. Let's see if it actually opens up anything. There we go. Yeah, it'd be nice if it actually loaded on the website like it's supposed to.
It was working fine for me.
It apparently hates Firefox or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I was looking in Google Chrome, so
Okay, let's see what these pictures are like. Yeah, there's a few crop pictures from a distance. Shot on a hill. I'm going backwards now, and that's the only one on that one. So yeah, that's some very distant, faraway pictures, but yeah, you can
Yeah,
you
if
can
you
tell that they're
click on the-
Cybermen.
yeah, you could if you go in link 3, you can see better.
It's still very far away.
Yeah, if you go to the second picture in 3.
That's about the closest we get. And yeah, they do seem a bit meatier.
Mm-hmm.
Although exact details are still kind of missing from this distance. Because literally we can see the entire camp plus all of the crew.
I know my laptop wouldn't be able to handle the stress of me opening those links while on a voice chat. Is it a costume we've seen before, or does it look like an update?
I'm going to actually see if I can copy this so you can see this then.
Okay.
It's actually not letting me copy the image.
Ah,
Come on.
It's, if anything, it looks like it's based on the Cybus design rather than the more modern ones.
okay.
So
I can't even guarantee we can make that kind of a reach as to which version it is. I would assume it's more like the newer versions, but I can't guarantee anything from this distance.
yeah, neither can I. I honestly can't tell because most of the pictures are distant shots. So you can't really get a close-up look of their detail. And the one close-up we have is seeing them from the back, and they've got cloaks over their backs, so
Mm.
making them look very night-like.
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if I can. Get the blasted thing to actually want to copy somehow, and it's just not happening. You know what? I think the best option I have is to just control is the print screen so Bill can see this. So I'm gonna put this in general chatting for now. But yeah, that's the best picture we got. The waiting to see if Bill crashes.
Yeah, there's not a way to really view image, is there?
Nope, there's no way to view image. I even tried to inspect the image like I can on Twitter to try and get, save images from Twitter when it's being a pain.
Well, that's right. You
Can't even
mentioned
do
it
that.
was Instagram. Yeah, Instagram blocks. I think it blocks attempts to save images or to view it independently.
That kind of sucks.
That's
But I see why you say
pointless
it looks
for
like
a
a
thing for images. You might as well not use Instagram at all then.
Well, Instagram is intended for mainly for cell phone use. I think is the main point.
I
You
won't
kind
even
of
use it for that.
you can't even post on Instagram using a browser.
Yeah, that just makes it even more pointless. I have other things I can post my cell phone images too, if I need to grab them for some reason.
Anyway, so that's what we know. It looks like it's going to be a period piece in the past. Only
Mhm.
we've got Cybermen and possibly like alien wizard-like creatures. Because I wonder if this has to do with that filming we saw earlier with the
With
one
the
I
weird
said.
with the weird wizard people in modern day, yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
Yeah.
possibility that there might be some sort of tie-in. So that means we just saw Radagast the Brown.
quite possible. After all, we saw Dumbledore and Voldemort, so why the fuck not?
I like how you mentioned Radagast Brown while I'm sitting here thinking. I wonder how many years it's been since the return of Silver Nemesis. If we're in the cycle, but probably not.
I don't know. This looks like Crusade era with the ragged cloaks.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. And the leather tents.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's just all they could afford for the crew.
Who knows? Maybe Chibnall's bringing back Robin Hood.
Hooray!
Maybe he'll be better than mediocre this time.
All right. So moving on to contests and auctions.
All right. So the Doctor Who Appreciation Society is once again auctioning off interesting items on their eBay site, including signed art, books, and DVDs. The auction, so no 8 tracks or cassettes, I guess.
No.
Ooh.
The auction is a fundraiser for 2 different charities. Tappy Twins is a charity supporting children with mental health issues, and CALM, the Campaign Against Living Miserably, is a similar charity for adults. Auction ends tomorrow, so visit fast.
Yeah, there was no listing on which DVDs or books or anything, but you ought to think that they're probably signed by, people from conventions and stuff. So
Right.
fairly interesting. I'd be looking into it if it wasn't happening in the UK. But remember, we're in America, so when we say auction ends tomorrow, it's today for you guys.
Yep.
Yep.
You have hours remaining. Go!
Considering I think it's about 4 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time right now.
3 or 4.
Yeah, I can never keep track of daylight savings time changes. So
I think it's 5-hour difference right now.
okay.
And then,
Yeah,
and
something
then
like 5 or
6,
6 hours, depending.
and then 6 after fall back to standard.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're saying for your location then? I think.
Yeah, for
I don't
our
know.
location. For you, it's an hour. It's 4 to 5.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I know we alternate between 4 and 5.
Yep, but I think it's on the shallow end of that right now. And then it's the full-on max value during winter. So couldn't tell it's not winter by that cold coming in out of my window. Ugh. I think it's down to 61 degrees and getting colder.
Fantastic. I love 60s and 50s weather.
Yeah, I don't like it when my bed is right below the window and it's blowing in on my body. I think I'm gonna have to grab my comforter tonight.
Some of the best sleep I had while in Madison with my window cracked only slightly open.
Anyway, that is it for our news.
That's pretty much it.
There's no Candy Jar books, no Big Finish, though there was Big Finish news, but not about Doctor Who.
One Big Finish related thing that happened to me this week, a video game guy I watched from YouTube was on Twitter asking where do people put pins on leather jackets, to which I replied to him, I don't know, but if I were you, I'd ask Sophie Aldred, and shared a picture of Ace.
So I just went onto Instagram and blew up the photo as much as I could. I don't know if that shows you any more details.
Pens. But yeah, there's not much to get out of there. It's they kept them very distant. The best shot we got is that back shot.
Yeah.
So I guess
And
anyways.
And that looked very much Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade kind of thing.
A bit.
All right.
So I guess it's on the Geek Talk then.
Yep. And the first part of our Geek Talk is television streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And over the weekend, over our Sunday night dinner, Aaron and I watched the newest Invader Zim movie, Enter the Florpus. Now, I think we heard about this originally back in like 2016, 2017.
Something like
and
that.
they've been using it on Nickelodeon's YouTube channel ever since then. And so there's been a lot of hype about it, and let me tell you, all the hype was completely worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much from the moment it started, which is a narration by Dib, done anime style, because I think it's going on in Dib's head, and me going, what the fuck, to pretty much the end of it, I'm laughing hysterically. It makes fun of itself because it starts out with the premise that Zim has been missing for an extended period of time, and Div has been doing nothing but watching on monitors and cameras, waiting for his appearance. It turns out that Zim was actually on the toilet for all that time.
Hiding in the toilet actually and waiting for the Dib. Waiting for the Dib to become fat and lazy and sloppy.
Oh, so you finally saw this, Matt?
I read the first comic book issue.
Oh, it's based on the comics?
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, at least that particular beginning plot point is definitely based out of the comics.
So it goes off, and it's a freaking laugh riot. between Zim hijacking Professor Membrane's bracers and using it to teleport the Earth across space and time,
Of course.
to them basically trying to stop the planet from falling into this giant Florpus hole, which will start causing it to collide into realities and destroy everything. It's hysterical. Plus, of course, we get to see more of the massive and the tallest. Yeah, it's pretty much goes right back on track.
Even though Zim's figured out a few things.
What's that?
Even though Zim's figured out a few things, try not to spoil. I think I know a few details.
I don't know. Zim's pretty clueless throughout all of this. He figured out one thing that depressed him, but then he kind of just bounced back because he's Zim.
I guess.
And he's a moron. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the Zim universe. Everybody's a fucking moron. At one point, I'm sitting watching these things. It's like Zim deserves to invade and take over the Earth because these people are dumb.
And then you look at Zim and go, "Oh wait." Look who we're also talking about here.
Yeah, trust me, I could spoiler there's a massive spoiler I could mention.
Mm-hmm.
Especially
there's a few.
if you know Zim's background. Yeah, it's this huge riot of just laugh after laugh after laugh. Especially if you like the Invader Sim style humor.
It's
Because
usually
that's
pretty
all
amusing
there.
humor.
It's all there.
Not my squirrely spooch.
And yes, Minnie Moose is back.
I think I saw Minnie Moose in a scene somewhere.
So is Gaz's ship.
Oh yeah, there's a floating Minnie Moose when Zim comes out of the toilet.
Yeah, so everything picks off pretty much right where it left off, and it's just even more crazy. I swear to God, I hope this does well, and it leads to more Invader Zim movies or a series on Netflix, because, God, this movie just proves how much potential there still is left in Invader Zim.
Especially now that they've had a break for how long and have writing up ideas since.
Mm-hmm. This actually recaptured the feel of Zim, which is kind of hard to do when you've dropped something for, 10, 15 years
So I
and
have
go
to say
back
about
to
15 years, yeah.
because, Mike Judge tried to bring back Beavis and Butthead after, 15, 20 years, and that failed horribly because he couldn't get the feel back. This just picked up the ball and ran with it.
Apparently, Nickelodeon's been doing a couple of things, and apparently the Rocko's Modern Life one is also a really good special.
Yeah, I think that one was actually on Nickelodeon, wasn't it?
I think it's also on Netflix.
But no, this went completely onto Netflix. So
I'm not sure if Rocko actually aired on Nickelodeon. I know for sure went to Netflix though.
But my brain was speaking in Zimisms for hours after watching this thing. I want to go watch it again right now. I didn't have to pick
we have
up
a podcast to do.
Yes, if we didn't have a podcast to do it, I didn't have to pick up Aaron afterwards. I would be in there watching Zim.
Shite rubber pants.
Grr, make my throne shoot flames.
Okay,
Hit the fire button. Peanut starts shooting out of it. Grr. Well, then hit the peanut button. It's just absolutely perfect. And there's points where you're just like, oh, God damn it, grr. It's great. If you've loved the original Invader Zim, you have to see this. Please do. And then send Netflix a message saying more. Give me more.
More. And give them extra money for this month.
I just find it funny hearing a mention of new Invaders. special recently after recently seeing somebody mention that Rick and Morty owes a lot of its humor to Invader Zim.
Kinda.
Kind of.
Kind of. Yeah, Zim was the first one to kind of go for that kind of humor a bit. Rick and Morty still kind of goes in its own direction, but yeah, you can kind of see some relation there. By the way, I will say that we were mentioning that everyone in the show is stupid. There is one non-stupid person, but she doesn't care. She's too invested in video games.
That is the one difference. Gaz is a little more with it in this one.
Oh?
But it might also be because Gaz in the series basically just scowled, played her game slave, and beat the hell out of Dib. Here she's a little more paying attention to what's going on in the plot. I mean, first she's like, "Oh yeah, it's just Zim, nothing happens." But when shit gets serious, so does Gaz, and she becomes very integral to helping Dib with the plot.
She's gotten involved, but she's also been very meh about it.
Yeah, she's not meh about it. She gets with it, and I think it's actually some decent character growth for me with the character. It makes the character less one-dimensional.
Mm.
So I enjoyed
They were
that.
already trying to branch out when they at least gave her own episode. Remember the one where she stalked the kid that stole the Game Slave 2 from her?
Mm-hmm. I mean, at one point, she actually encourages Dib to get off his ass and do something without, threatening to kill him. She's like, "Yeah, I only do that because I know you can take it." And I'm like, wow, she's actually a big sister, not just, the devil. Nice.
To be honest, every once in a while, Dib needs it, too.
Yes, he does. Because he does get a little full of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he does in this, too. And, yeah, the world pays for his hubris. But, yeah, you just have to see the episode. It's great. Jonan Vasquez actually has roles in this, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He plays, first of all, Zim's computer. He is the voice of Minnie Moose.
Oh, V-Moose has a voice now. Okay.
Well, yeah, this is animated, so it makes noises. I don't think it speaks, but it makes noise.
Okay. So you just did the noises for it. All right.
Mm-hmm. There is a clone of Professor Membrane, which gets called Clembrain, and Jonan Vasquez voices that. And then there's apparently something called Schmoopsy, which I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, he does all of those. And of course, Olivia Diabo comes back as the voice of Tax Ship. So Richard Horvitz is back as Zim because nobody else could be Zim.
Pretty much. There's no other voice in my head that could do that.
Interestingly enough, Justin Roiland does voices on this. The guy that did that's co-creator of Rick and Morty. Does a bunch of voices for this too. So bringing up Rick and Morty again, Justin Roiland is a machine called the Fudio 3000. A weird alien #1 and an excited audience member. So, hey.
Got some guest appearances.
Yep. Oh, yes. And, of course, the Robo-Mom and Robo-Dad, Zim's quote, parents, unquote, are back, too.
Mm-hmm.
So it just has the feeling of the original show. It's almost like it never left.
Welcome home, son.
And, yeah, so far, it's gotten mostly positive reviews. So I'm loving it, and I really think people should see it. And it currently holds 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Sweet.
Or it did as of this posting.
Wait.
Wikipedia anyway.
That's the big reviewer people gave it 100.
Let me see. I'm actually looking it up right now.
Because I'd like to know how they rate this, because you can't get a user rating because you can't prove you have a ticket.
Hmm.
Yeah, in case you didn't know, Rotten Tomatoes has started banning people from being able to do user reviews unless you can prove that you bought a ticket to see the thing you're reviewing.
But then how'd you prove you actually watched the thing you bought the ticket for?
That's the other thing too, but that doesn't matter into their logic. They just feel like they need to protect movies from being bombed because they look bad.
Yeah, 100% on the critics on the tomato meter.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's not often you get all the critics doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Especially for something like Invader Zim.
Especially
Jesus.
for something like Zim. Yeah, that's very particularly odd. But you know what? Fine. I'm fine with that.
All right, moving on. Matt had some video game.
Has a video game. I have finished it. So I'm going to talk for a few moments about Thief 2,
You
the
actually
Metal
finished a video
Age.
game? You actually finished a video game?
I finished plenty of video games. I've finished, gosh, at least 3 or 4 of them this year already, for sure.
I only usually hear about it when you give up on one. But that just might be because you're bitching about it for a week afterwards.
Because I'm sitting there foaming at the mouth for a while, yeah. I finished, before this I finished the 2016 Doom, and that was really good. So I just finished Thief 2. Thief 2 is a direct follow-up to the originals about a year later, so spoilers inbound for Thief 1 if you're going to run away in panic. So after you defeat the Trickster, who is essentially a chaotic god of nature in the previous game, things have quieted down for a while, and the Hamrites, who are a religious guard group essentially for the city, have all but disappeared and are now replaced by what was a small faction within the Hamrites called the Mechanists. The Mechanists are popular not only because they have a lot of similarities to the Hamrites, but also because they've been pushing steam technology throughout the city. There are now machine cameras that look like human heads, but they have just one eye that's a lens, so they can capture people who are not supposed to be there and can set off alarms or set off artillery things that also have mask faces. And there's also 2 variants of small and large steam-powered robots that will run around and try and find you. Their only weakness is either shooting them with fire arrows, which explode, or shooting their coal vents in the back with water arrows. The basic plot is that after a quick heist, Garrett, the main character, is requested to get involved with the sheriff, who then also preemptively, not long after swapping around some stuff for fake evidence to get rid of one of his captains, has gotten hold of one of Garrett's fences, and has convinced them to rat him out. Garrett manages to barely escape, but then wants to find out who the sheriff is working for, and finds out that he's been attached to the Mechanists. Their leader, Karis, has been planning something, but the details are very vague at first. You find out there's an experiment going on, and that he's been making these new things called the Servants. The Servants look very humanoid, and matter of fact, when first encounter them, you can actually knock them out with a blackjack, which is something you can do with humans to not kill them. And you find out that they are actually people such as insane asylum people who were put away, who have been abducted by the Mechanists and forced essentially to have brainwashing and these control masks put on them. So they are forced to do the bidding of people around them, like they were robots. And I'm not sure how involved I'm going to get in the spoilers, but it gets pretty deep in, and you do have to eventually have a pseudo standoff with Karis, although he won't ever directly fight you. He's too much of a coward and wants to hide away and preach on about the Builder, his god, the Mechanists and the Hamrites all perceive to worship. So this one's a lot more steampunky than it was the fantasy version from the first game, but there are still elements of it. In particular, a character named Victoria, who is a wood nymph, also shows up in this game again, and she becomes a regular contact about halfway through. She, by the way, is the person who removed Garrett's right eye in the first game, and he has replaced it somehow with a artificial eye. Come to find out in the last level, if you listen to Karis ramble enough, he does mention the fact that he gave the eye to Garrett. And he's been using it with these special orbs that he can toss out that have little cameras so he can see around corners without actually going around corners himself. And it's essentially a replacement eye otherwise when he's not using the orbs. The Thief series, I think there was stealth games before Thief. Matter of fact, I think the original Wolfensteins for, I want to say, Atari or some other old PC format were originally stealth games. But Thief definitely was the one that started the whole full 3D, hide in the shadows, lurk around people's sneak attack kind of stuff. That would later become even more popular with things like Metal Gear Solid. There's a lot hiding in shadows. You have your arsenal of weapons like the blackjack to knock people out. You have water arrows, which I mentioned you can use against the robots, but you can also use on torches to black out rooms, as long as you can hit the flames directly with the water arrow. They do temporarily swap out the rope arrow with the vine arrow, but it's more or less the same thing. I don't know why they particularly decide on that. Although I think the vine arrow has properties that make it a little bit better, like it can hook onto grates and stuff. Trying to remember what else I can talk about that wouldn't be spoilerish. The combat is still janky, but it's a fun kind of janky. You're just swinging wildly and praying your hits hit, while you also back away from guards if you happen to get caught. And praying that they don't hit you in the face with their hammers, because they can hit you for like 3 times the damage. One other thing I enjoyed was there's a couple times where they took you to the downtown level in this game, which is a much bigger map than any of the previous maps. And I think there's only a couple other maps in the game that challenge it for size, but not for like the open space, because you can literally walk all around town, looting different apartments, sneaking into towers, open up city gates, and continue lurking about. And all the time giving the local guards the run around and spooking pedestrians as you walk by this vague shadowy form walking through the street, and there's like, oh, what was that? And you're in the shadows again. Oh, it's gone. I don't know. Must have been the rats again. Apparently they have human-sized rats. Yeah, Thief has been a pretty fun game so far. I have played the first couple of levels of the next game recently, just to see how things are running. And I think there's some really interesting changes for the next one, but it doesn't seem to be tying into the previous games, at least yet, outside of a few mentions of Hammerites and stuff. But overall, it's been a really fun game. The last one was particularly challenging. There's a slew of stuff I didn't even cover in the last level. I just got as much as I needed done and went, okay, we're good, running away. I'm low on supplies. Bravely ran away. But yeah, so far the Thief series has been pretty good to me. I'm interested in seeing the third one eventually. And I believe, yeah, there's a fourth one that was released, I think it was by Bethesda? Or at least a company under them. It's really weird. I have to figure out what the... Actually, it was the Dishonored people. The people that have made Dishonored for Bethesda also made a Thief game. I've been hearing...
Eidos, Montreal.
Actually, no, so it wouldn't be Bethesda. It would have been Square.
Square was the publisher. Eidos was the developer.
Yeah, because they own Eidos now. That's still a little bit weird. But yeah, they have the rights to it now, and I'm still kind of wondering what they're doing with that. Square has two of my favorite franchises that aren't Final Fantasy, and they've been doing nothing with them lately. They have Thief, and they also have Legacy of Kain, and they've been just sitting on them. At the very least, they could make a modern update to Legacy of Kain games and at least re-release them. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, Thief 2 Metal Age, highly recommended. It's at least as good, if not slightly better than the first one. They did a lot more stuff with it, but also they made it very difficult with some of the mechanical stuff. I hate and dread the sound of the beeping cameras when they spot me.
So apparently Bill is now having technical problems.
Oh, great.
Bill, try disconnecting, reconnecting.
I saw his thing light up and nothing came out.
Mm-hmm.
There. Just what we need is a mute Bill.
Bill fighting with the internet.
The fight never seems to end with him.
No, it doesn't.
It's a never-ending fight.
A
Never-ending battle for truth and justice.
I don't know
And a better connection.
if it's just Bill's setup, or if the internet's just that bad in Connecticut. Honest to God, I'm kind of glad I live in Wisconsin. Because
Yeah,
we have
I
our
begin to
own
wonder.
fights. We have our own fights, but nowhere near on Bill's level.
Yeah, mostly it's the provider being idiots or a-holes or something with kablooey.
Kablooey, blooey. Louie kablooey.
Are you hearing us?
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I think that's a no.
Ground control to Major Bill. Ground control to Major Bill.
Bill, 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 Bill.
Apparently his bandwidth is just that small.
Yikes! Yeah, if it's where he lives, yowza.
Yep.
If it's literally the entire state, yikes.
I mean, I expect this kind of stuff out of, like Australia, where they, gave you 50 gig and say, that's it. But yeah. Because now it's time for the episode summary. Who is supposed to do the summary this week?
Is Bill behind? Because I think Bill's behind, probably.
Bill's way
Yeah,
behind.
it is, but Bill can't even hear us right now.
Arg.
Who did last
Arg.
week's?
Oh, that was you.
I was about to say, was that you or was you or Tim for sure?
I know I
Okay.
didn't do it. I did Marco Polo.
Yeah, I'm just kind of redistributing because I still had the original numbers on there. So Tim did Marco Polo. I did Fear Her. I think it's your turn, Matt.
If it's going to be just the three of us, yeah, it's probably back around to me.
Because you haven't done one since Warriors of the Deep. Or, excuse me, since Delta and the Bannermen. So, Thomas did Love and Monsters, I did Fear Her, Tim did Marco Polo, I did Reign of Terror. So, yep. Your turn.
Yeah, well, for lacking a bill, I guess it is my turn. So let me see here. Let me close this tab. I'm trying to remember what I played before Doom. I can't think of it at the moment. Oh well. Anyway. Alright, stopwatch is up. I assume you still want to check me, just in case.
Yeah, give me just a moment. For whatever reason, my link to the stopwatch isn't working. I actually have to type it in Google search. All right, I got it.
Alright, ready?
Yep. Are you ready, actually?
Yep.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
We start off the episode with a couple of people apparently from Britain or from the UK, either way, in medieval times garb, and walking alone in the forest, although they're being followed. As they are walking through the forest and come back to the rest of their group, the people that follow behind them are also nearing the clearing, although a few moments after they pass through, we see a very quietly entering TARDIS, which is a bit weird. The TARDIS crew does come out and start nosing about. Ian and Barbara sticking together, and Vicky sticking to the Doctor. As
Actually, a quiet TARDIS is not unusual in the early seasons. It just usually just faded in.
Still weird for me. I know it happened once in a while, but I thought it was like an error, but it seems to happen a little too much. It's like, why did they... Never mind. I don't know anymore. But Barbara and Ian do quickly bump into one of the people following the Brits, and I forget what they called them. The Saxons? Is that what they called them?
The Saracens.
Saracens. They come up behind one of the Saracens, who immediately draws weapon, and Ian does the same to look for something to protect himself. I believe there was a downed soldier right in front of him. I can't remember for sure, though, but he does proceed to quickly try to defend himself, meanwhile telling Barbara to back away. As he's fighting with the guy, Barbara is captured by two other men and tied up and dragged off. And Ian proceeds to fight for a few minutes. Well, one of the there's a slew of downed British people around, and one of them was still only injured. He managed to get up long enough to grab his sword and throw it, which did take down the Saracen, and the Doctor and crew quickly patch him up and let him rest for a little bit. The Doctor and Vicky go to a nearby town that they could spot to temporarily steal some more local clothing and try to blend in more with the locals. They trying to think. They actually find out it was it King Louis? I'm trying to remember names now.
Richard.
King Richard. They find out that it's time of King Richard, and they're not too far away from where he's currently staying at. So they take the night and travel with him and try to keep him in as best condition as possible despite his injury. King Richard is very happy to at least see one of his friends come back alive, although he's obviously very annoyed that the others have died. One of them captured, and while he is also happy to see a particular belt of his that apparently he really was fond of, but he'd almost give it up for the sake of having his friends back, because apparently they've been losing people left and right to the fights of the Saracens. So Ian keeps pushing, although with some aid from the Doctor, to more kindly push to try and find not only the King's friend who was captured, but also to find Barbara, who is also in the same situation. The knight was allowed to be alive and captured because he pretended to be the king, and they didn't want to immediately kill the king before he was brought in, hoping that they were supposed to get something big for it, but find out only a little while later that they've been fooled. Barbara also feigned to be the king's sister, the princess, and was obviously very quickly called out. She doesn't look quite like the princess at all, and the guy pretending to be the king doesn't even have red hair, which was an obvious call out. They are still left alive, though, despite their fooling their captors, because they also want to prove that they aren't merciless people and want to hopefully maybe eventually send them back with proof of them not being horrific and treating their captured well for being imprisoned the way they are. Barbara, in particular, was to join the leader of the Saracens at dinner. However, one of the guy that they fooled was particularly angry, and when he was talking with a merchant, the merchant wanted to get some chances at better trade and more easily. But in return, he was going to help the Saracen to capture Barbara. They managed to do so, but the merchant did leave behind a glove, which gets him caught. Ian gets involved with trying to find Barbara, which trails back to the city where this particular Saracen leader has been ruling with a rather iron fist, because all of the people who had any kind of wealth have been taxed out of any wealth at all. He's also been keeping a harem of women and girls that he's been basically capturing from other local families whenever they catch his eye, and Barbara was apparently to join them eventually. Barbara does hide with them a while after trying to escape and being caught again. Meanwhile, one of the fathers of one of the girls that's been captured also met Barbara and was trying to help her get out of town, but she was found out because he got injured and stuck his neck out too far when the guards were around. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Vicky have been trying to quietly keep things smooth with the king, and things get more and more heated, especially after he plans to give the princess away in marriage to hopefully stop the fighting, to which the princess very quickly says no to it. And so they are forced to leave, and they start heading back towards the TARDIS, and the people sent to follow them believe that they're heading back to the Saracens as traitors. To catch up on the other side of things, Ian finally, after being captured by a man for a while, convinces the man, after also giving him a bit of a beating, that he doesn't have any wealth, but he can try and get them but he does convince the guy to take him to where he wants to go to find Barbara. Once there, he convinces the guy to go steal them some horses so they can leave quickly. Gets inside, tries to... I believe he shows up a little bit late. The father we saw earlier takes down the Saracen leader as he found Barbara, only for him to need more protection as guards come in, and Ian pops up just in time to help with the guard fight. They all finally leave. They get to the TARDIS just in time to meet the Doctor and Vicky. The British people are about to take in the Doctor for suspicion of being a traitor, but Ian convinces them to let him take care of killing the Doctor after allowing him one last view of the city they were headed towards, and they all quickly pile on the TARDIS and leave.
All right. So
that got wordy.
That did. It kind of rambled around for a bit.
As do some of these stories. That was 2 hours of story.
By the time you were done, that was about 7 minutes and 45 seconds.
Something like that, yeah. And that's cutting around some of the rope-a-dope stuff too.
I still think that you spent a little too much time on, the early part of it.
It needs to be explained, though, because there's so much that it quickly devolves into as people are going in 5 different directions.
Anyway, so have we got Bill back?
Seems like it.
Okay. I was going to say it sounded like it for a moment at least.
That would have been your summary if you had been there to do it.
Yeah, how convenient, Bill.
Believe me, I was not ready for a summary this week anyway.
Okay, so what do we like about the episode? Tim, you are first.
Okay, the thing that I really liked about this episode was how well-rounded the characterization of both King Richard and Saladin were, as
Yeah,
well as the performances by their respective actors.
they didn't just make it King Richard, good guy, and Saladin, mustache twirling bad guy. No, there were nuances. And I appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
All right, how about you, Bill? What did you like about it?
I guess I like that they tried like era relevant problem solving, like the whole like marriage to end a war was a very common tactic in that era, as well as somebody defaulting to the church when they weren't a fan of a decision that is era relevant, especially considering it's a crusade. And I think things like that were very effective in having this be a very grounded historical.
All right. Matt, how about you?
I've got to say, I quite enjoyed watching some of the costuming going on. Like the fact that we also even get our main characters to try and dress up in period properly, which doesn't always happen all the time. The only other one I can think of that happened at the time that did this sort of thing was, I believe, Marco Polo, and I'm not sure if they ever did that before or after that often.
The Doctor dressed in period just last episode.
What was the previous episode?
Well, I mean, of the ones that we covered, the Reign of Terror.
Yeah.
I guess he did the Doctor in particular seems to do it more often than anyone else, but it doesn't seem to
Which
happen.
is kind of funny when you consider that once you get to like the 9th Doctor era, the Doctor just fuck all about costumes.
Yeah. Yeah, after we reach
like,
leather jacket Doctors, suddenly he doesn't care. He
Actually,
just
even
blends
in
in
the
somehow.
JNT era, even in the JNT era, the Doctor doesn't really dress in period.
I think pretty much once they ditched the historicals, it just
Yeah,
never
after they
bothered.
ditched the historicals and for the first Doctor, they basically stopped
I
bothering.
think Tom Baker dressed as Sherlock Holmes once.
Kind of?
He added an extra layer and a deerstalker cap, but that was about it.
Yeah, he added a cloak and a deerstalker. That was basically it.
The rest of the outfit was typical Tom Baker, including the massive scarf.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but once the historicals ended, you really didn't see them changing clothes to fit the era.
With very few exceptions.
All right, so what did I like about the episode? It actually gave me more insight into the Crusades than I actually had. Believe it or not. Well, that was the whole purpose of historicals, but that was an era where, my history teachers was like, well, that happened.
But what just the details? Nah, it just happened. But
the consequences.
This is around the time when the historicals stopped being about learning history and started to be more about just entertainment. It was Spooner was the editor at the time.
Yeah, but still, it got more. This one was still more historical than the gunfighters.
That's, I mean, any historical is going to be more historical than the gunfighters.
Mm-hmm. It just gave me a little bit of learn about the politics of it, which I didn't know much about. Other than the fact that there was a bunch of Europeans that decided to go and try to retake Jerusalem. That's pretty much all I know. That's all I knew about the Crusades in history. It's like, this week we're going to cover the 1st through 4th Crusades. Next week we'll cover the 5th, 6th, and 7th. That was pretty much our history class.
Do you remember any of it? Too bad. Moving on.
Yeah. It was like a total of 3 questions on the test. Whereas,
And most people's summary of the Crusades are Christians are assholes.
Well, I think it
Not
gets
even
more
all
coverage.
Christians, because one of the Crusades was the Catholics invading non-Catholic Christians.
Well, I think it gets more coverage in Europe than it does here.
Quite possibly.
I would bet.
Because again,
Yeah.
I think American history courses dismiss it mostly as not our history.
I mean, and yet Americans' history covers the Crusades a lot more than it covers the equivalent area in China
Oh God,
or
yes.
India or
No,
name
yeah,
a country, continent. Yeah,
yes, I know. Any American world history course is basically European history course with a touch of Africa,
pretty much.
touch of Western Asia.
Just a bit of tea spices,
Hmm
literally, in the case of everything England ever did.
But yeah, they don't really cover Chinese history, Japanese history, or anything like that because
In fact, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I don't think our history classes really covered anything from Japan history-wise at all.
nope.
Oh.
Not
I've
until,
literally had to
like,
learn from osmosis after getting out of high school.
Yep.
Not a whole lot south of the equator either.
Nope.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that the English colonized Australia in the 1800s, yeah, that's basically, and that it started as a penal colony. Yeah, that's basically all we learned about the history of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You get a little bit about when the Europeans go south to try to get to India for spices. You get a little bit on South America and a little bit about South Africa, but not a lot.
mhm.
We learn a little more about Europe itself, but it's still not a whole lot. And then the rest of it's all American history because that's the important stuff.
Yeah, once the 1700s roll around, it's all about the U.S. Fuck the fact
USA,
that
USA.
England and France went to war. We don't fucking care because it didn't bother us.
We're too busy infighting
Mm-hmm.
because that happened to us, what, 3 times?
Yeah. You don't really get Europe involved until World War One.
Yeah, you don't
just
really get. Yeah,
realized-
you don't really have any more European history until World War One because we're buddy now.
Don't forget the Spanish-American War, although the history classes like to gloss over that because they like to pretend that America was not an imperial power.
And they consider it the Mexican-American War too. So
That's a different war. It was the Mexican-American War, then the Civil War, then the Spanish-American War.
yeah, they never covered the Spanish-American War in our history. It was all about the Manifest Destiny.
Yeah, it's just like all of a sudden one day
Yeah.
Puerto Rico showed up on our mailbox and move on.
Here's a lesson for you kids if you're listening to us. History is biased.
Yeah.
Especially the way it's written until you're done with high school. You actually learn the real shit afterwards, and the half of it you're gonna have to learn out of the History Channel. Good luck.
History Channel, encyclopedias, and books. Yep.
Or maybe Doctor Who serial.
Yeah, you never know. Okay, so what did we dislike about this episode or this serial? Tim, you're first.
There's not a lot of general things I disliked about this serial besides the telesnap episode. So I'm gonna have to pass.
All right, Bill.
You said dislike?
Yes.
Dislike.
Yeah, most of the things that annoyed me either harken back to the black and white era in general or to telesnaps. I don't think there was anything specific to this episode beyond that.
All right, Matt.
I think one thing in particular I can point at that would clarify some of the issues I have with this story is the Barbara story, because it's literally just Barbara for the most part. While it does show that even though the leaders of the Saracens are trying to be decent people to the most part, you also see the seedy underbelly. And that's a good thing to prove that it's not all just one-sided. But the problem is that Barbara's story in particular is just literally a mobile strip running around in circles.
It's like they tried to Okay, and that leads me to mine.
Okay.
Mine is they could have gotten this episode done. For a four-parter, they could have gotten this episode done in about half of this.
Yeah, if they
Because
would have cut out the Barbara story and just kept Barbara for
No,
everybody
no,
else, we
no,
could
no.
have.
If they had cut down both stories, because both stories feel like they're dragged out.
True, Barbara's story is dragged out too long, and I guess there are parts of the other one that could be cut back too, because it's mostly the Doctor dealing with inside drama and Ian being caught out in the desert for like half his run on his own.
That's a good chunk of what could have been cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could have
Because-
simplified that down to one scene where he's been pinned down and then he tricks the guy and breaks free.
Because the Doctor's story arc goes into basically Richard proposes marriage between his sister and Saladin's brother, and she disagrees.
And she disagrees, and Doctor didn't want to get involved, but people start blaming him instantly because he's a stranger.
Mm-hmm. And so he eventually says, "Fuck this shit," and heads back to the TARDIS.
Well,
How do you-
more or less, the king says, "Yeah, we're sorry, we don't blame you, and we would do something about the night, but he's gonna be busy, trying not to die in like the next couple days."
Yeah, it's based, but essentially he gets fed up with it and goes back to the TARDIS.
Long and the short of it, yeah, they're done with this
Yeah,
and want to get out
I
of there.
am trying to long and short it, Matt. That's the whole point. Is the fact that how do you drag that out for 4 episodes without it getting boring? It got boring.
Yep. But I think also the Time Worms wasn't 4 episodes the usual for a story.
No, this is 4 episodes was short for a story around this time.
Yeah, then you wonder
And-
why we hate the longer episodes so much.
But this one could have used either something or
It could have used a better plot to help fill in the time, yeah.
okay. So favorite scene, Tim.
Oh, the scene I really loved was when Richard tells the Doctor and Sir William about his plan to marry off Joanna, and then the Doctor and Sir William have that debate about, and it's like William Hartnell in all his glory, belittling the man who like says, "We didn't come here to marry off people. We came here to fight. Damn it, you know." And then they have like this great like war of words. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I have to say that was well done for especially for William Hartnell, because I know he's usually used to playing like military guys, and he actually has to play completely against cast for that one.
Yeah, he's playing mostly a pacifist, which is
Mhm.
different from him. All right, Bill. How about you? Your favorite scene? Did we lose Bill again?
God damn it, Bill. Ba-da-ba-bum. Oh, Bill? I hear noises. Did he walk away for a drink and didn't tell us? No, it looks like he's trying to speak, but I'm not hearing anything. Then again, it's off and on, like it's picking up background noise or something.
And he's not responding to my typing, so
Yeah, I'm going to assume he AFK'd without telling us. So, to me for a moment then?
Yeah.
So, favorite scene? I'm going to go with the one sword fight we actually got to see in this particular episode. Thank God at least we kept one of them.
was that it in the very beginning?
Yeah, that was the first sword fight at the beginning. And I believe they ended it on a sword toss. And this is actually something I've researched. That sword tossing is not only a possible way of combat, but you have to be pretty good at and trained at it. And
yeah.
So
On
that
the
guy,
downside-
so that's unusual that guy had that kind of training, but at the same time, he is supposed to be a knight, so it is possible the guy had time to learn that kind of thing.
It's also not that likely with a British longsword because they're not balanced right.
Yeah, it very much depends upon the sword type, and it could be that he did perfect his sword for such a thing just in case, but It's very iffy. There's a lot of math to it, and there are many different variables to it. But I do know it is a possible thing, and it's not the first time I've seen it in film either. Although I will say this is the earlier version of the two I've seen.
Bill, are you talkable again?
He's typing something. And he left.
All right. So my favorite scene, I actually have a couple of them. One of which is telesnapped, one of which is not. The first choice is the doctor stealing clothes.
Mm.
And then, just the fact that he goes out of his way and does all this distraction to steal the stuff. And then my second scene was the knighting of Ian, which I have to say was a lot cooler, not telesnapped when I read it in the novelization.
Okay.
So let's talk about least favorite scene. What didn't we like? Tim.
The whole scene where Ian is tied up in the desert and tortured with ants suffered particularly from being telesnapped, I think. I think it would have been at least palatable if I had seen it in live action, because I had a hard time following it.
I didn't have a hard time following it, and it just felt kind of meh. It really did feel just like a giant fluff filler. There could have been better ways to spend that particular time, but that was the best they had at the moment.
It seemed like they were just trying to pull for a kind of a cliffhanger that they didn't.
Yeah, matter of fact, it feels like they pulled for like an old American serial trap.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is Flash Gordon still going to survive this? It's Ian bloody freaking Chesterton. He has main character armor. Of course he's going to survive this. Matter of fact, he punches the guy a couple times and suddenly they're buddies.
Man, he punches him and suddenly they're buddies. It took Rocky and Apollo 3 movies to do that.
All right, so Matt, your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene. Actually, yeah, I got a good one. The scene where Barbara and the girl are hiding after she initially broke out,
Mm-hmm.
and Barbara just, for whatever reason, feels the urge that she needs to sneak out there, and immediately, unwillingly, gets caught by the guy coming back in with a torch.
Yeah. Like, damn it, Barbara, could have saved us a whole lot of trouble.
At the very least, she wasn't stupid enough to drag the girl out with her.
All right.
I thought she was doing that because otherwise they would have set fire to the building.
I know she was trying to plot something, but they weren't being very specific about what she was plotting, and she just blundered into getting caught.
All right, so we've got Bill. He said his favorite scene was the one where the princess discovers Vicky's a girl.
Oh.
Starts gushing over how pretty she was. Apparently, Vicky's one of the most companions associated with LGBT tropes.
It seems.
And I'm wondering if it's actually because of that scene, but his least favorite scene is actually the one I was going to go with. How they got in the TARDIS, because it's really confusing without visuals with the multiple groups joining together. I would say the same thing, but only because the fact that the knight chasing the doctor was apparently really stupid.
Yeah, I followed it, and I just thought it was dumb logic.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, I will let you wander off into the trees to see the village for one last time before we have you killed. Oh, darn, they got inside the box and disappeared.
Yeah, it was just kind of... It was kind of hockey, and yeah. More like, okay, we're at the end of the episode now, so we have to write them back into the TARDIS quickly and pointlessly.
I think the episode needs to stretch a bit before he reaches that hard.
Mhm. All right. So we're up to final thoughts. Tim?
I thought this was a very well written episode with some great performances by the actors, especially well nuanced, and a good job by William Hartnell. The only things that I really didn't like were the padding with Ian's whole getting captured thing, and sort of it would have been nice to have seen the family of that reunited with the two sisters and the father uh, get back together. But other than that, this was a really good episode.
All right. Matt?
I take it Builder hasn't written anything yet.
Final thoughts. Okay. He thought it was an okay episode, but the format was overly frustrating. Some of the subplots really would have benefited from being able to see body language. The actors were pretty good from what he could tell, as were the main cast. And so you can go ahead now, Matt.
I would agree that the actors seem to all be doing really good jobs on this one. This seemed to be, for at least the acting parts, well written. There was some good settings. There was some nice. Matter of fact, there was actually some nice sets for the few we got to actually see. Some very nice costume work. The problem seems to be that we had a few filler points, and especially when the filler points hit when the episodes need visuals the most, it's just like groan worthy bad. So the telesnaps hit you right in the stomach just as you need more visual aid once in a while. That being
Oh,
said, what we do still have here was still really well done. It's just a huge shame that we're missing out on the other two parts that we need to make this a little more complete and possibly for some people a little more easy to understand.
oh, just a quick thing. I remembered something did catch my eye as I watched the credits for the final episode. It said that Billy Cornelius played quote man at arms. I thought He-Man? He-Man is canon in Doctor Universe.
No.
No, Tim. No, Man at Arms is an official thing outside of He-Man.
Oh,
It's a position.
dang. Okay.
A lot of kings, especially back in the day, had men of arms.
By his positioning in the credits, I think that was one of Saladin's men.
Mm, that's
Because
a possibility.
he's in with Saladin, with like all of Saladin's and the people of Jaffa. So I think it was an Arabic man at arms. I have no idea who. Anyway,
There's a
were
lot of
we
them
up?
around, a lot of soldiers and so forth, so it could have been anybody.
So was this up to my final thought?
I
I
think
believe
so,
so.
yeah.
All right. So, when this aired, it was probably a good episode. It had some action, had some plots going all over the place. It was a little bit drawn out, and I think it could have benefited from being shorter. And definitely losing half of it to telesnaps has not done it any favors. It wasn't quite the visual beauty Marco Polo was. But I think it was well written, and was interesting. As a side note, it's funny. After Ian gets knighted, the doctor makes a statement of, "Oh, I kind of wish it was me that had been knighted." And of course, he would go on to get knighted, 9 bodies later. by Queen Victoria. So nice little. I think that might have been a shout out. Not sure. Anyway.
That's a maybe.
Oh, well, I mean, him getting knighted at the end of Tooth and Claw might have been a shout out to this.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Anyway, it basically for me boils down to becoming a par episode, where it would have been a good episode otherwise. So speaking of that, let's go to our ratings. Tim.
Oh, sorry. I will give this episode 4.5 stars.
Wow, that is generous.
Wow, yeah.
I was very impressed with it.
Bill is going to counterpoint you by giving this a 2.5.
Oof.
Matt.
I could see myself giving this 4.5 if we had the missing episodes. With the lack thereof, I honestly can't give it above a 3.5 right now.
3.5?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm almost with you on that because I thought it was going to be a 4, but with the telesnaps, it's a 3. So with all of that, Matt comes the closest as it averages out to 3.4.
Woo. I am near the average.
3.4 puts it at number 223 out of 308 things currently reviewed.
It's that high of a rank and it's still in the bottom half.
It is on par with Earthshock, The Faceless Ones, Silver Nemesis, Curse of Peladon, Androids of Tara, The Mythmakers, which I think is another telesnap, isn't it? No, it's not.
I was going to say, no, I don't think so.
The Five Doctors, The Android Invasion, and The Long Game. It is better than Planet of the Daleks, In the Forest of the Night, Modern Undead, The Massacre, Stones of Blood, but not as good as The Serengra Conundrum, Planet of the Dead, Eaters of Light, The Savages, 42, City of Death, The Christmas Invasion, Twice Upon a Time, Mark of the Rani, Fury from the Deep, and A Town Called Mercy. So there we go. 227 out of 308. That's all we have to say about the Crusade.
All right. So, with that being said, here's our contacting info. For those that cannot see, you can find us on YouTube at Unearthly Podcast. You can find us our live stream services at Twitch at Unearthly Podcast. You can also find our up-to-date Twitter feed at Unearthly Pod. You can find our Facebook page also at Unearthly Podcast. And if you are enjoying the live shows and or the VODs thereafter, you can always catch us on Patreon at Unearthly Podcast and give us a buck or two if you're really enjoying the show and help persuade us to keep going. And also maybe eventually help us afford those Big Finish videos we need, or audios we need to get eventually.
All right. So next week, we go a little further into missing episodes from season 2 into one of what is considered to be one of the most infamous episodes of Doctor Who.
Uh-oh.
Fortunately, it's incomplete. We go from the Middle East to Unknown in The Celestial Toymaker, written by Brian Hales and Donald Tosh, and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Peter Purvis as Stephen Taylor, Jackie Lane as Dodo Chaplet. Yeah, we'll see you then.
Oh dear.
We really will.